Very good. Okay, next up we have David Dunham talking about important near-Earth Trojan and KBO events for the coming year. David, turn it over to you. If you
Okay,
want.
I've unmuted so you can hear me. Let's see, John has to turn
Yes, we
the.
hear you. Yes.
Okay, let me get to my presentation. Um, let's see, I think, yeah, share. Okay, there we go. Um, yeah. Um, okay, let me go to slideshow. Okay, I also want to acknowledge Steve Preston, who provided a lot of the input for this, so and advice. So I'm going to talk about some of the more interesting events um, coming up during the. Actually, we have a few events during late this year still to go. So I'll talk about them and then show the ones for 2025 that I've selected for the RASC Observer's Handbook selection. Um, so this is just an overview of the topics I'm going to cover, but I'll just go into it rather than discuss it here. Um, First, we've already talked about the Arecibo event for the earlier talks. Um, so um, um, the Norm Carlson covered this pretty well, um, and there. And just as a background, he's already shown this, the May 19th discovery and then the June 9th confirmation showed the parameters of the system very well in this plot by Dave Harrell. Um, and then the interesting thing about Arecibo, of course, it had an astrometric wobble, which was detected by Gaia. And from that, they were able to discover the period of the motion. And then from the two occultation observations, um, and I think also some photometric light curves of the object, similar to what was talked about in Gout's paper, in the previous paper, 2 papers ago, um, to de completely determine the orbit of the moon about the asteroid. Uh, so this is IOTA's prediction for the event, which it's already been shown. But more interesting is the lucky star prediction. They have a page for the occultation, and part of their Gaia Moons project. This is Arecibo was the first Gaia Moon in a sense, and really I think spurred that effort um, um, a lot to discover more objects like Arecibo. But this was the prediction for this event for the September 14th occultation, showing the paths of both components with the well-defined blue line for the primaries limits, but then an uncertainty of where the secondary would go, showing it could be anywhere between the two red lines, but this shows the shadow. So uh, anyway, let's see. Whoops, what happened there? Okay, no, I went backwards somehow. Okay. So going forward, this is the occult program has the ability. Norm talked about elevation corrections. Well, occult has the facility to superimpose lines of at equal spaced intervals, and this helped with our planning for the observations. Um, we set up several lines that were parallel to the center line, but then these are all elevation corrected. Um, and showing the path. This shows the path across northwestern Arizona, but we also wanted to cover to the north because you saw the previous slide, the French prediction showed that the satellite would pass north of the main shadow by a bit. So um, so this just shows, our distribution of observers. And this shows the preliminary results. Um, um, Norm Carlson showed the results, but he left out a critical observation, which I guess he didn't have yet, from Richard Nolthenius, who had a miss between Bender's observation and between ours and the University of Virginia's observation across the main body. Uh, so Nolthenius actually had a pillar of Hercules cord, we call it, from the Antiope event, where we had several of those back in 2011. But in this case, it was crucial, showing that the satellite was a little bit north of the prediction, and not as the prediction showed that an observer near the northern limit of the um, main body would have an occultation also by the satellite. So that didn't happen, and that nicely constrains the position once we get that cord in. Um, and this just shows a summary of what happened. Um, Norm already talked about the Didymos occultation, so I'll just skip over these slides and go on to what we have for the rest of the year. We show that this is a page of near-Earth asteroids occultations um, that we have posted on our website, and it's also published in the RASC Observer's Handbook for 2024. So you can see the Didymos event. I've marked some important ones. More important events coming up in the future are occultations by Phaethon, which is the Destiny Plus target by the JAXA mission planned. And so there have already been, of course, we made observations in 2019 of Phaethon and got its orbit well determined, but there seem to be some deviations in that orbit from occultations observed in 2022. So we are really anxious to get some more observations of occultations by Phaethon to see where it really is. There's an indication it's shifted a little bit south, but for a given geometry, we don't know. It could be north too. So we want to try to observe these events, especially in December. Um, um, so we have two on December 8th. One's at 6 hours UT, but that star has a bad, um, um, has a high RUWE. So we're going to ignore that event and concentrate on the fainter event that occurs 2 hours later. It's only visible in the US across parts of Texas. Um, um, and December 22nd, we have a nice bright star, a ninth magnitude star. So I hope some observers can try that one, but it's getting close to Christmas, so I don't know what we'll have. We have the brightest near Earth asteroid event of the year is on November 30th with an 8.2 magnitude star um, going near Philadelphia and Alberta. And some of the other events are indicated here. Tutatis and let's see, we have, that's, an interesting Tutatis occultation was important because Tutatis is on a list of 20 asteroids whose orbits are so uncertain in the far future that there is a chance sometime from between 100 years from now and 1,000 years from now that it could cause an impact with Earth. So it's one of this 20 lists of JPL identified as important asteroids to try to determine. Um, their orbits from occultations, which we know from Apophis and Phaethon we can do quite well. Um, so um, anyway, this is the whole list for 2024, but most of them are in the future, and so you can get more details from that map and position and so forth. Um, so I'll just go on for Trojan events this year. Of course, we had on August 11th, we had the large Suri campaign, which successfully observed Patroclus and Manoetius. And it was a very unique event. And we don't have anything like it that can really give useful information on the system, justifying a large campaign like this until the 2023 flyby in North America. There are a couple of good events in 2026 in Europe, but that'll be for us. We have some events during the rest of the year, but this was too low altitude, the one on October 7th, for us to really try it. And the altitude and very faint star 14.9 magnitude event in November. There's an event in October which is good for 71. But let me go on to next events. These are occultations by solar system event, other major objects. We have an occultation by Neptune coming up on October 9th. It's 11.4 magnitude, but it needs to be observed in an infrared methane band in order to and observe with large occultations. It's more in eastern and central U.S. and Canadian event, but also over Canada, over Europe, where a lot of people are going to try it. But the day before that, or the night before that event, we have an occultation by Hyperion, the satellite, or somewhat strange satellite of Saturn, which we hope to be able to observe. And so Norm Carlson talked about Titania, the satellite of Uranus, which was observed um, recently in the previous year. And then we have occultations by more distant objects. There are just two in the future, so I impose this chart. We have Benor over Alberta on November 9th, and then November 23rd over Cuba. It's really not so accessible. But better predictions for these events are generally from the lucky star. Once you find an event for this, go. But they're being added by into Occult Watcher from Lucky Star for a number of these events. And finally, the Recon program has a couple some events that they have posted on their website. So these are bit faint stars around 14th magnitude, but they generally have longer durations. You can do some integration and for them, but the details are given there. I'll just go to the next slide because and this is for 2025. This is bright star occultations, which Steve Preston covered. I just have some of his same events, but a couple of here's the Tony event he mentioned that. Whoops, went. I have to go. Whoops, I have to go. Next slide. Okay, I just hit the wrong button there. So that star coded by Tony is Lambda Capricorni, and we have two other stars with Bayer designations, but by small asteroids. And on January 2nd and on August 10th. But we have, let's see, I don't have there's the Improneta event passing that Steve mentioned as a possible campaign event. So there's just those other occultations that are seventh magnitude and brighter across North America. And here's the list of them. And that one by Trebon that Steve Preston mentioned that star is actually in the zodiacal catalog. It's occulted by the moon too. And so, um, but I'll just go on for these are the near Earth asteroid occultations during 2025. You can see we have three Phaethon events, which we hope to try to observe. Um, and I've um, given a couple of the events are especially bright. Most of these are, 11th, around 10th, 11th magnitude, even 12th. But on December 22nd, we have a 9.9 magnitude star by the asteroid 2004 VA, and another even brighter one, 7.4 magnitude, Texas. We're getting a bit low altitude on December 24th. Um, and on December 20th, a 9.5 magnitude. So asteroid 2004 VA is one of the ones in that list of 20 by Jet Propulsion Laboratory as ones of special interest. And their orbits are not too bad because they do have some radar observations. We've tried a couple of these where we went to the tried to deploy across the center line with multiple stations and things. But it turned out that the observer right on the center line had a hit, and the others had misses, even though they were in the 1 sigma zone, which was just showing that the predictions are often for near Earth objects better than the formal statistics would indicate. Couple of other events are Japanese targets, spacecraft targets. So there would be very interested in trying to get them on October 26th and December 6th. I'll just go on. This is the list of those events, giving some more information about them. Um, and Also, these events, we post the occult input files so you can do your own searches and get local details. Um, these are special main belt occultations coming up. And just some of note, we have one good event by Arecibo in January 12th. And then we just heard about the asteroid Gaillard. Um, and then we have two occultations by it on June 15th and June 25th on opposite sides of the continent. Um, the um, Leona is interesting, the occultation on April 18th, because Leona was the asteroid that was occulted Betelgeuse in December 2023. So we are anxious to get more observations of occultations by it so that we can determine the shape of Leona at different orientations. So that's an important event. Um, Barbara is another interesting target on January 1st, which um, going across the country. That's contact binary asteroid, which we observed quite well in 2009 IOTA meeting that we held in Florida, I think it was. Uh, but um, and there are other interesting occultations. Was one by Arecibo in May. That star has a high RUWE, so that's really not suitable for a mobile effort. The other targets are from the Gaia Moons program. Whoops, Ant is one of the Gaia moons, but that particular star has a problem, so its path is uncertain. Also, not really suitable for a mobile effort. Then this asteroid Huena is interesting because it has a satellite, and there's a separate prediction for the satellite path. Um, and Westerwald is we have Repsalta, which I think was mentioned on January 30th. Unfortunately, that date corresponds to TNO occultation, which I'll be talking about, which um, later. Westerwald is a target of the United Arab Emirates main belt asteroid mission, so we have a couple of events with that, which is some interest. But and this just shows the list, sort of indicating the bright occultations of by special objects. But the Gaillard events are good too, 10th magnitude, um, 11th. So, um, and these are the Trojan asteroids. I won't. They're of interest just to give context for the Trojan mission, Lucy mission, which will study them. 5 of the objects more detailed, but there are other occultations which can be observed shown here. And here is the list of them. One of them is Agamemnon, which was a satellite, was the event just only over Florida, which Steve Connard found a moon of it during an occultation that we observed, I think, back in 2012 or so. And the brightest Trojan event is Phobos with an 11.5 magnitude occultation over a path that stretches from Newfoundland to Mexico. So, anyway, and these are the distant occultations. This shows the January 30th occultation by 2013 LU-28. But Lucky Star has a separate prediction, which is farther north. And so I want to try to change this map before the RASC publishes it to use their better prediction. And we have 2 other occultations by LU-28. That object is a Damocloid TNO in a very large orbit. I think it has an A29 or 95 astronomical units aphelion or something. So it takes few thousand. I think it's 2,000-year period or something. Its orbit and another event. And so anyway, also next year we have an occultation by the satellite of Uranus Umbriel on August 2nd, but the northern limit is shown here, just going over the southeastern U.S. and then over Mexico. So it's unfortunately misses most of us. And this shows their information. And they say the Lucky Star is better for these events. This shows the Lucky Star prediction for the January 30th event. And it's a transatlantic event, so not only we have an opportunity, a lot in Europe also do. So we hope that the January weather is not too bad for both areas. And I'll just sort of conclude that we also Mitsuru Soma last IOTA meeting lamented the neglect of lunar grazing occultation observations. I just note that we successfully observed a grazing occultation in February this year of Zeta Piscium. I'll show. And then on November 27th, though, we have a really spectacular graze of Spica, whose southern limit passes over Texas. It's really pretty low in New Mexico, but you can see passing just north of Austin and over Houston. So we look forward to that event, although it occurs before, but near Thanksgiving. And this gives just some information about the events coming up during the rest of this year. So I cover up part of the map for it to show that. And this shows our grays of Zeta Piscium that we observed. It's a triple star with a 5th magnitude primary, which we had a deep occultation, then a secondary star where we had nice, 4 occultations, like a 6 magnitude V occultation. We didn't expect to be able to see the C component because it was supposed to be around 12th magnitude or so, but it turned out to be about 10th magnitude, and we could see it, and we had 4 events with it. At first, the events didn't line up when we plotted them on the profile. The lunar profile now is quite well known from the LRO observations. It's not uncertain like in the Watts days we had, but by changing the position angle from the predicted 62.5, decreasing it to 52.5, I got a good fit of our observations profile. So that shows the value of this grace for the double star um, observation. And this shows the opportunities coming up during 2025. A nice bright Pi Scorpio event in January over New York City. But you can see the other opportunities here. Moon is passing through the Pleiades cluster more. We have a very nice event on July 20th, passage with a thin waning crescent moon. There are other events with a more gibbous moon in February and December. And we have one lunar occultation of Mars in the southern limit, so that'll be a total occultation for most of us. And the southern limit for the nice grays of Regulus passing over southern Canada. So, and this shows the list for those phrases. And anyway, prediction links for all of these for 2024 are given on this slide. They were published in the RASC handbook, but once that's published, we also put them online here for access to see and get more information, especially by getting the occult files so people can predict their predictions for anywhere in the world, not just in North America. Um, so, and similar sites will be set up for 2025, will be set up during December. So that's all I have. I think I'll let's see. I'll keep sharing in case anyone has questions about it. Let's but how I'm pretty much close on time, I think. So if anyone has any quick questions, I'll take them now. Okay, Ted Swift, raise a hand. Let's see.
David, when will the Royal Canadian Handbook be published? When would we expect to see?
Talking, but I don't hear him.
Oh, my headphones are
Ted, are
on.
you muted?
No.
He does work for us.
I hear Ted just fine.
Okay.
He's asking,
thank you.
Ted was asking.
Yeah. Okay.
I was asking when the embargo will come off of those. When will the embargo come off those web addresses that you could share them with IOTA occultations group?
David, were you able to hear Ted Swift's question?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
I see,
he asked, when will the embargo come off of those events so they can be shared?
Does said that the event in Florida on June 15th. It's a big.
Okay. Well, I guess we'll see them when we see them. I was gonna put them in the notes. It's okay.
Okay, thank you, David. Okay. Next up, we have Frank Marshy on the Unistellar Network. Frank, I see your message that you're here directly.
There. Okay.
Hi, how are you, everybody? I'm going to start sharing my presentation. Thank you for giving me 30 minutes to talk about the Unistellar network and what we're doing. I have a lot of updates, so I'm assuming you're hearing me well and you see my slides?
Yes, yes.
All right.
We can